Welcome everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you a comparison on sewing machine functions. And in case you're wondering why I have so many sewing machines, I love to sew, I love to experiment, and I love to open up the machines and figuring out what's wrong with them and learn a new skill. So as of today, I have 8 sewing machines, I have 7 sergers, and 3 cover stitch. And I don't sew for others, I don't sell what I make either. I'm just a serious hobbyist. I mostly sew clothing. Anyway, in this video, I'm gonna compare some basic functions of sewing machines, and I hope to add value to this just in case you're confused or why you're wondering, or you're buying someone a sewing machine and you just very overwhelmed with the information out there on the internet. Okay, let's begin. What's the difference between a sewing machine with very few knobs and a sewing machine with a bunch of functions and dials and buttons and selections? The basic answer is the number of choices of stitches that you can do on the machine. For example, this machine can give you variety on the length and width of the stitches that you're doing. So I have here a graphic that I made, so you can adjust the width of your zigzag and the length of your zigzag, and so does a basic running stitch. That simply is the difference. So this machine is very specific because you cannot change the width, you cannot change the length on the machine other than what's available. In this machine, there's a lot of choices. So you can just adjust the buttons and make it longer, wider, and do whatever you want. And so some of these machines do. So what I like about this machine, it's they only have very little job and it can do it very well. Depends on the brand as well. But if I want precision machines, I want really accurate stitches, I go to this machine because it's very precise. When something has very little job to do, it can do it very well. Does the weight of a sewing machine matters? Not on most projects, not at all. But this machine weighs about probably 40 pounds. So I have this hammock project that's about almost 30 pounds weight. No problem. It did it very efficiently. So as you can see, I'm going to pull up a picture. This is the second time I made this hammock. The first one, I used a machine similar to this. Not this one. I no longer have the machine. But it was struggling. It's like, it can't do it. It was able to finish the project, but the machine was tilted like that because it was so heavy and it's not balanced. So the weight of the machine matters only if you are sewing heavy weight projects. How to tell if a sewing machine is quiet or noisy? Well, I guess you go to YouTube and type in the actual model of the machine and listen to the sounds of some of those videos that people upload on the internet. Is noise important? It depends on who's listening. I mean, if you are surrounded with people who do not like the constant sound of the machine, then yeah, you have to opt for a machine that's quiet, like a PAF or a Baby Lock. A lot of these like computerized sewing machines are quiet. Something like this is completely manual. It's loud. Vintage machines, loud also. And also this machine. This is a commercial grade sewing machine. It's somewhat quiet, but if you're in a rhythm, sewing rhythm, it will cause the table to bobble because it's very powerful. There are some of the considerations. So there's pros and cons with the noise. It doesn't really bother me. But some people get anxious, nervous, and gives them anxiety if there's a sound of the sewing machine in their head. And that's, everybody's different. Does a good pedal matters? Sometimes if you're doing precision work like quilting and turning points and all this, and you need to be able to control your rhythm. And the only way that is possible is to have a sewing machine that has really good acceleration, and then you can barely compare the difference. It's really very obvious when you're using a cover stitch machine, which is a completely different mechanism. But for normal sewing, no, you barely notice a difference. All I know is most of these brother sewing machines that are computerized, they tend to have some crappy pedals. This is the pedal for the commercial grade sewing machine. See the difference? And this is just what most people have probably at home. So yeah, it matters in certain projects, but not all the time. What's the best way to learn how to sew? Well, everybody's different. Some are easily self-taught via YouTube or online classes. Some can process information better when they're reading a book or a manual. But for me, the best teacher is either a workshop or you just grind it by yourself. You learn. It doesn't matter how many classes you've been through or listened to. You have to do the actual work yourself, and that's how you learn. That's the best way to learn, is to just do it. Make mistakes. It's part of the process. What's the best place to buy sewing machine? Online, craft stores, Craigslist, dealership, Costco, Walmart. All of those are valid, but it really depends if you're buying a used machine and a brand new machine, or if the machine is expensive and you need that support from the dealership, or if the machine is that complicated. Let's say you're just buying a machine for occasional use, then $200, $300 from the internet's not a big deal. Is LED light better than a regular sewing machine bulb? Yes, it's a lot brighter. And it will not heat up your sewing bulb just in case you're sewing for a prolonged period of time. Do you need extension table for your projects? Yes, for bigger projects like quilting and blankets, but most of the time I don't really care for them, especially the not so good kind, which is this one, brother extension table. It's rickety. It's not a good quality extension table. So most of the time it's just sitting on the side for me. I don't need it. Now, you've heard a bunch of people say that vintage machines and older machines from the 1960s, 70s, and even 1980s, they're really good machines, and I agree. But there's one thing that I don't like about these machines compared to the new ones, is the feed system. See, what I do is I change from one type of fabric to another, and I find myself adjusting the tension. With this type of newer machines right now, yeah, they have a more advanced feed system, so you do not have to end up changing your tension dials often, and that's what I like about it. What's the benefit of getting a computerized sewing machine compared to a heavy duty or a manual machine? Well, a computerized sewing machine, it's really good for occasional sewing, light duty, and variety of stitches and novelty sewing. But if you want a reliable sewing machine and that will last you a while and it's value for your money, get something that's mechanical. And you can, further down the road, service it or pass it on to your family or friends. Sometimes these computerized machines are not worth fixing and you ended up throwing it in the landfill. So you want to sew knits and you want the best sewing machine for it. I say you get a serger. But if you want a sewing machine, get the one, sewing knits is really tricky because the there's a variety of elasticity on the knit that you're sewing. What I notice is if you have a high-speed machine like this, it will do its job. Its job is to be speedy and there's no time to address the drama of your fabric. It will do it. But most of us that has this regular domestic sewing machine, you really feel the difference if you don't interface the knit. And you know, even zigzag, it really matters what kind of fabric that you're using and the torque of your machine also. So I didn't really answer that, but what I'm trying to say is really each machine has their own calibration, and how you will find out is when you actually work on the machine with the knits that you're sewing. What's the difference between a vertical spool holder and a horizontal one? Well, it's something to do with the noise. You can really hear a tad more noise with a vertical thread spool holder. These horizontal ones are a lot quieter. The disadvantage is you can only fit so much size of spool on these machines, depending on the design, especially this one. Also, the ability to use certain thread types. Like this is a machine where I use all my heavy duty and outdoor projects. So I put on a outdoor thread here, and as you can see, it's unraveling right now naturally because it's made of nylon, part nylon, I suppose. And this is a metallic thread too. It's very messy. And these are ideal for horizontal spool holders. Okay, so that's the difference. What is the best sewing machine? That's a really loaded question, and it's a biased question to begin with. In my opinion, the best sewing machine is something that you will evaluate much later down the road after you've sewn on it. It lasted you years and it's serviceable and all this. So it takes sometimes 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years to even evaluate the best sewing machines. That's my answer. Are European-made machines like Elna, Husqvarna, Bernina better than the Asian branded machines like Janome, Babylux? I say depends. Back in the old days, the European brands like Bernina, Husqvarna, Elna, Neki, they're all really good brands, but the Asian manufacturers like Koran or these European brands have moved their production to Japan, or they commissioned some factory in Japan to make, or Taiwan or Thailand to make these machines for them. So it's really a vague question. All I know is the older machines are a lot better and still around for a reason. Does AMP matter? AMP matters when you're buying a sewing machine? The answer is it depends who's using it. If you have like a 13-year-old, you don't need to give them a super powerful machine. Maybe eventually they transition into a better sewer, then you can give them a power machine. Like this is not even a 1 amp machine. This is a 1 amp machine. 1 amp. This is 1.6 amp. Amp is the power of the machine. And most of the time, you only need it when you are constantly sewing, speed, reliability, and functionality. Most of the time, new sewers don't probably notice a difference. What's the good thing about a lay-in threading system as opposed to the exposed threading system? Take up lever and exposed tension disc. It's convenience. It's easy, it's quick, but be very careful when you're working with a lay-in threading system, because over time, if you don't do it correctly, you'll end up with a wound up thread clump underneath the hood, and that's when you have to take it to a sewing machine repair person to fix that problem. I had 3 of these machines that broke on me. I was able to fix 2 of them by opening up the hood, but be very careful about this. You have to make sure that the thread is lodged in correctly in between the discs, because you can't really see it. And what I do is I use two hands just to be sure. After that incident of mine where I had three of them that broke on me at the same time. What's the difference between a drop-in bobbin and a front-loading bobbin? Like this. Well, for once, the thread that the bobbin can accommodate, the front-loading bobbin can accommodate more thread, which is easy because you can just keep going. And so I find myself rethreading the bobbin over and over again if I'm doing a prolonged project. But it's very convenient. You drop it in and off you go. Also, you can leave as little as 2-3 inches and you'll be fine when you step on the accelerator. So this type of front-loading bobbin, it has more steps to put on the bobbin, but it's very convenient for me. I like it because it has more thread capacity and it can power through prolonged projects. I find this system more efficient. If you're using a front-loading bobbin, you have to use a longer thread tail as opposed to this, meaning you waste more thread with this type of bobbin system compared to the drop-in bobbin. Do you really need all these stitches? No. Most of the time you end up using a few of these stitches. I have made a project where I use all of these stitch and it took a long time to brainstorm how to do it, but most of the time you only need the straight stitches, the zigzag, and a few other applications. Automatic needle threader. Do you need it? Yeah, they come in very, very handy and efficient. But if you are to make a decision on buying a sewing machine based on the automatic needle threader, do not do that. Some of them, they come broken straight from the factory, and over time it's really easy to shift the alignment of these mechanisms, so you'll end up with a broken threader, or you end up having someone fix it for you. But do not make your decision based on this, because to me they're kind of fragile. Should you buy a sewing machine using your credit card and pay revolving credit? To me, if you're paying interest rates, revolving credit of over $300 in interest rates over time, unless you're doing it for business, it's not worth it. See, when you buy a sewing machine, to be able to use it is also to spend money, especially in embroidery machines where it's very expensive to keep up with the uses of the embroidery, on top of buying the thread and interfacings and all that. So if you are using revolving credit to purchase a sewing machine and it's way past $300, let's just throw a number out there, it's not worth it, because that would equal to another new sewing machines from a different space. So it's, to me, I equal the amount of interest rate to an actual machine. How many more sewing machine could you have paid for with just the simple interest rate of the purchase that you made? So I hope making sense here that do not do it if you end up paying a lot of interest rates on the machine. If you can't afford it, then don't buy it. That's my take. And I hope I provide value to this video, and thank you so much for watching.